We're about to watch what I believe to be a rather concerning video from Joe Rogan having the CEO of OpenAI, GPT, if you're familiar, on, and they're talking about what this will bring into the future. And I think that we as Christians ought to be moderately concerned about this. Let's watch what he has to say.
And wondering what the potential for the future is and whether or not that's a good thing.
I think it's going to be a great thing. But
so they're talking about, is AI going to be a good thing for the future?
But I think it's not going to be all a great thing. And that is where I think that's where all of the complexity comes in for people. It's not this like clean story of we're going to do this and it's all going to be great. It's we're going to do this. It's going to be net great, but it's going to be like a technological revolution. It's going to be a societal revolution. And those always come with change. And even if it's like net wonderful, there's things we're going to lose along the way. Some kinds of jobs, some kind of parts of our way of life, some parts of the way we live are going to change or go away. And no matter how tremendous the upside is there, and I believe it will be tremendously good, there's a lot of stuff we got to navigate through to make sure. That's a complicated thing for anyone to wrap their heads around, and there's deep and super understandable emotions around that.
Yep.
And by the way, I think we're probably all on the same page there. That yes, with what's going on with AI currently, that there can be good, bad from it, and we're not exactly sure what the future will navigate.
That's a very honest answer. That it's not all going to be good, but it seems inevitable at this point.
It's definitely inevitable. My view of the world, when you're like a kid in school, you learn about this technological revolution and then that one and then that one. And my view of the world now, sort of looking backwards and forwards, is that this is like one long technological revolution. And we had, first we had to figure out agriculture so that we had the resources and time to figure out how to build machines. Then we got this industrial revolution, and that made us learn about a lot of stuff, a lot of other scientific discovery too, let us do the computer revolution, and that's now letting us, as we scale up to these massive systems, do the AI revolution. But it really is just one long story of humans discovering science and technology and co-evolving with it. And I think it's the most exciting story of all time. I think it's how we get to this world of abundance. And
when he says abundance, by the way, he means monetary prosperity. So he means people being, everybody, like universally being well off.
Although we do have these things to navigate, and there will be these downsides. If you think about what it means for the world and for people's quality of lives, if we can get to a world where the cost of intelligence and the abundance that comes with that, the cost dramatically falls, the abundance goes way up. I think we'll do the same thing with energy. And I think those are the two sort of key inputs to everything else we want. So if we can have abundant and cheap energy and intelligence, that will transform people's lives largely for the better. And I think it's going to, in the same way that if we could go back now 500 years and look at someone's life, we'd say, well, there's some great things, but they didn't have this, they didn't have that. Can you believe they didn't have modern medicine? That's what people are going to look back at us like, but in 50 years.
When you think about the people that currently rely on jobs that AI will replace,
this is the big part I want you guys to pay attention to that I have a concern with.
When you think about whether it's truck drivers or automation workers, people that work in factory assembly lines, what, if anything, what strategies can be put to mitigate the negative downsides of those jobs being eliminated by AI?
So I'll talk about some general thoughts, but I find making very specific predictions difficult because the way the technology goes has been so different than even my own intuitions, or certainly my own intuitions.
Maybe we should stop there and back up a little. What were your initial thoughts?
If you had asked me 10 years ago, I would have said, first AI is going to come for blue collar labor, basically. It's going to drive trucks and do factory work, and it'll handle heavy machinery. Then maybe after that, it'll do like some kinds of cognitive labor, but not, it won't be off doing what I think of personally as the really hard stuff. It won't be off proving new mathematical theorems. It won't be off, discovering new science. Won't be off writing code. And then eventually, maybe last of all, maybe never, because human creativity is this magic special thing. Last of all, it'll come for the creative jobs. That's what I would have said. Now,
what he's saying is it happened in the complete adverse order of that. That it took the really complex things like coding, technology, creativity, etc. That's the first thing AI was able to conquer. And then going down, it's going to be able to do blue-collar jobs last. So he's saying people's fear of the blue-collar jobs going away is like, that's the last thing that's going to go away.
It looks to me like, and for a while, AI is much better at doing tasks than doing jobs. It can do these little pieces super well, but sometimes it goes off the rails. It can't keep like very long coherence. So people are instead just able to do their existing jobs way more productively. But you really still need a human there today. And then B, it's going exactly the other direction. You can do the creative work first, stuff like coding second. They can do things like other kinds of cognitive labor third, and we're the furthest away from like humanoid robots.
So back to the initial question. If we do have something that completely eliminates factory workers, completely eliminates truck drivers, delivery drivers, things along those lines, that creates this massive vacuum in our society.
So I think there's things that we're going to do that are good to do, but not sufficient. So I think at some point we will do something like a UBI or some other kind of like very long-term unemployment insurance, something. But we'll have some way of giving people, like redistributing money in society. And as a
UBI. If you're not familiar with this conversation in UBI and the dilemma that is based around UBI, here's what it means. Universal base income. This means that because of the astronomical amount of jobs that AI will very more than likely replace and take over, that this will cause a significant deficit. In past, we said things like, oh, well, computers are going to take jobs, or, things like, power plants or industrial areas that are currently, whatever sort of robots are currently doing those tasks, that those are going to take so many blue collar people out of work. So things like, boxing cups or getting the paper and the sides of the paper put for the cup to be put together. Like, a lot of robots are already currently doing those things. Again, that's not really AI. It's just, a machine that you have told to do whatever task, right? And people were freaked out about that. The problem is this is going to be on an exponential magnitude of that. Again, to the point where at some time in the future, probably, maybe not in my lifetime, but probably in my children's lifetime, where many, many jobs, if not most jobs, are not going to be needed at all for a human to play part in, because AI is going to just be able to do that job so much better. So the concern is what happens to all of these unemployed people, because it's not that you're too lazy to get a job. It's you can't get a job because you're not going to beat a computer that can do things for pennies instead of paying you $175,000 a year. What happens to those people? UBI would be this idea that they would have a universal base income. So everybody makes 50 grand a year. And then if you somehow still were able to get a job because you're really smart, owned a company, etc., that you would be able to make really good money still, much, much more than $50,000 a year. Think about the philosophical challenges with that. What happens in a society where nobody has to really work anymore, or 80% or even 50% of people do not have to work anymore? What happens with your time? Do you just spend time watching TV all day? Do the suicide and depression rates go up? Do people have more anxiety? Is the obesity, is the lifespan actually shorter now because people don't have tasks? I mean, it's scientifically proven that people who don't have a mission in life, who don't have tasks in life, who don't have strategy in life, that these people do not live as long, especially post-retirement, as people who do have these things in place, who have hope in place, who have a plan in place, strategy in place. Those people do way, way better off. And one thing that you may have not considered is, again, if AI stays on the road that it's on, and I don't know why it would not, it will get to a point one day where many people are genuinely put out of jobs. Everything from your coders and complex jobs like creative work, all the way down to the people who are the blue collar workers, the truck drivers, etc. So if none of those guys have jobs, I don't know, like sales reps would probably maybe have jobs because they're going to be able to do it better than a human. But I don't know. I've personally used softwares where these jobs are incredible, and these people are, again, it's AI, but it talks just like a human, sounds just like a human. You would literally never know it was a robot that's talking, and that's already happening, right? In my current business that I do, that I run, unrelated to this channel whatsoever. But even in that, we use AI for those kinds of things already, for certain tasks and those things. So my point is to say, that would leave a really genuine question and concern, I think, in people's minds in regards to what happens with people's jobs. Let's keep watching a little bit more of this.
A cushion for people as people figure out the new jobs. But, maybe I should touch on that. I'm not a believer at all that there won't be lots of new jobs. I think human creativity, desire for status, wanting different ways to compete, invent new things, feel part of the community, feel valued, that's not going to go anywhere. People have worried about that forever. What happens is we get better tools and we just invent new things and more amazing things to do. And there's a big universe out there. And I think, I mean that like literally, in that there's like space is really big, but also there's just so much stuff we can all do if we do get to this world of abundant intelligence where you can sort of just think of a new idea and it gets created.
Although I agree with what he just said, I think that he's undermining the amount of people who find all of their self-worth, sense, pride, value, etc. in their job, which they shouldn't, by the way. But I'm just saying it's a reality that people do. I mean, I would say a very large percentage, especially people who make 6 figures a year more. If you make over $100,000 a year, I'd say you probably find immense amount of pride in your job because so many people are so results-based driven, especially in America. And A, input bringing Y results is really valuable for us. And I put in 8 hours a day and I receive $100,000 a year for that 8 hours a day I put in. That makes me feel as if I'm very, very good at what I do, regardless of whether you are or not. It makes you feel that way. And that's an immense sense of pride that people feel. Again, apart from Christ, when that is removed, your like number one sense of value, security, pride, etc. is stripped from you. Yes, you can join a basketball league like he's saying. Yes, you can go and find some sort of community to gather around. But if that's not all centered around Christ, then what value is that? It's none. That's why I said, like, I think that the depression, anxiety, suicide rate, etc., is going to skyrocket if people have no sense of pride in the things that they're doing anymore. Because what would you have a sense of pride in? You know, people have this theory of, man, when I retire one day, man, I'm just going to be doing woodworking in my shop, work on my old school classic, and golfing all day long. Talk to somebody who's actually 70 years old and see if that's actually what they're doing every single day. And if they are, see how happy they are. See how much joy is on their face. Some people, they genuinely are and they really enjoy it, but most people are miserable in that scenario. They'll do it and they'll golf every single day for 2 years and I'll be like, you know, the grass looks pretty much the same as it did yesterday. The holes are pretty much just as far apart as they were yesterday. And there's, again, this sense of futility and carelessness and uselessness that it goes into somebody's life, again, who does not have Christ. So what's my take on this? What are my thoughts? I'm not much of an end times guy who's going to start predicting the future and things like this. But what I will say is I do think that by the time that this AGI, this artificial general intelligence, which is like this godlike intelligence that knows literally everything and is smarter and more powerful than you and I are, by the time that that comes on the scene as just the standard, I would assume, and again, I don't have a tremendous amount of scripture to back this up. I would assume, though, by that point, God would be coming back. Again, I don't know how far we are from that. You know, some people are going to say we're, you know, a year away from that. Other people are going to say that we're 100 years away. I don't know what that number is. But by the time that we have almost virtually recreated God on earth in the sense of the all-knowing, omnipresent type aspect, I would just, again, assume, and I am very happy to be wrong. As I said, I'm not at all some sort of end times eschatological expert at all. But it just seems like, man, that would seem like a really logical reason for God to come back. Even more than Israel conflicts alone, because, again, Israel's been in conflict for a long time. Even more than COVID vaccines or whatever goofy thing that you want to, you know, use your debating about. To me, it seems more clear. It seems more evident that that's going to be the emphasis. That you know, like people feel like they have zero need for God because they are God now with all of their, you know, abundance of knowledge and wealth. That seems like a very clear time that God would come back, when people are eating, drinking, being married, given into marriage, and just living this completely careless life with all of this, you know, godlike information at their disposal. That is my hot take. Again, I'm happy to be completely wrong. That's just my thought on the matter. Again, I don't know if that's going to be 1,000 years, 10,000 years, 1,000,000 years, or next week. God knows, I don't. I'm just here to be a messenger and present to people that they need to be focusing and serving Jesus and following him as top priority in their life above everything else. If this has helped